Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to Workforce Ready with Enstar. My name is Nnamdi Henach, and I'm your host. If you're new to this platform, you're welcome. I'm excited to have you. Please make sure you subscribe, you like, you share, do all the YouTube things, because here we share relevant information that helps you advance in your career, especially as a first generation or African immigrant. This is home. I hope your day is going well. Let's go ahead and jump right into today's conversation. And today I'll be talking about why most career transitions fail and what the ones that actually work look like. That is what I will be talking about today. Again, if you have not subscribed, go ahead. We see the numbers. You're checking out the videos. We need the subscriptions to rise. That is how it goes. That's how we are able to continue to bring you incredible content on a regular basis. With that said, let's go ahead and jump right into today's conversation. And today I'll be sharing some stories, right? I want to get into certain things. I'll talk about myself first of all, and it's important to understand where I'm coming from and why, when it comes to career design and architecture, and then career transition, I am so passionate because it's a journey that I have walked through personally. Okay, so when I was looking to get into, I did all of my education in tech. I have a bachelor's in computer engineering, I have a master's in computer science. So it's like, so what are you talking about with career transition? But then you graduate with these degrees and you are a generalist, right? Especially now as an immigrant, it's even more, it's like you have to be very intentional about the opportunities that you have to pick, because beyond the work, beyond getting a job, I also had to navigate immigration and the shenanigans that comes with that, and so if you worked on campus here, I work to university housing, so nothing tech related. I did get a generalist IT internship, during my master's program. My title was system administrator, networks, something along those lines. But at work, my title was the IT guy. I did everything, and so it paid me what an intern should get paid. It wasn't for me at the time. It was big money, but it wasn't anything. But again, it was big money. I was very grateful then, still grateful today for that opportunity. But it was a time came when now I had to do things differently. I had to now take my career seriously. I had finished my master's program, and it was about, okay, what do you do next, right? Which of these lanes that are open up to you do you? Because if you know anything, if you have been in tech, and I think most career paths are like this, but tech particularly rewards you for being a specialist, not a generalist. Okay, you can't just be I'm a computer science graduate. What do you do? Well, I do a bit of programming, I do a bit of database, I know networking, I know cybersecurity, I know something about everything. Nobody rewards you for doing that. That doesn't get you paid. That doesn't get you a decent. And so eventually you take all of that knowledge and you have to specialize. The question becomes, well, what do I specialize in? How do I lean into one particular thing? And that's, it gets very frustrating for a young person trying to navigate their career and not knowing, okay, I have all of these skills. I'm able to do all of these things, but which one do I zero in on? I was on the clock. I was on the timeline. Again, if you're familiar with how immigration works, um, your post graduation, you have a short term visa or work authorization you receive that you need to get a job in 90 days or you're out. You're out of status. And so it was really a challenge to figure it out on, okay, which of these lanes, and now you start experimenting and figuring out, okay, should I try this? The first default that one tends to fall into in that situation is you follow the trends. Okay, so I did. Then it was SAP was a thing, and so I started taking some classes on SAP business objects, SAP HR. Just started navigating that path. Certifications, and I started getting certified. Did certifications here and there. There were career fairs that I attended that presented certain opportunities, and I also explored those career paths. But then those got jammed up because they needed sponsorship. I needed sponsorship, and they weren't going to do any of that. And so, but if you had asked me at that point, why were you, going after these opportunities? Why were you trying to get into any of these jobs? I couldn't tell you why. right? I couldn't tell you, why it was important and why I wanted to do any of those parts. It was just about survival at the time. It was about, this is what's in front of me, right? This is what's trending. This is what pays the most. It was about, okay, this is I've looked at the salary numbers and this is going to get me to where I wanted to. As we started going through, I started getting all of this, what do you call it, outreaches from a lot of these training and placement companies. And if you're an immigrant, you're probably receiving some of those where we'll train you and they'll help you get a job. And they were from random, completely wild, like it's as long as it's tech. But because of the situation I was in, I had to consider all of them. I didn't go for all of them, but I gave thought to a lot of them. There were some that were like, hey, come to Arizona, do this program, and then and I won't lie, it was real, right? And so it's like you have this, you are capable, but then you are invisible. You are doing everything that you are told to do in terms of, like, for me, that was what it was. But now the doors weren't opening. I felt like at this stage with my credentials, with my experience, with the things that I had, people should be knocking down my doors. If I needed sponsorship, they should be excited and consider it a privilege to file for me, right? And so at some point I had to make a decision to stop waiting for, for the market to favor me, basically, for things to just work out. And I needed to start looking at a way to design my career, right? And a lot of things, if you followed my journey, my personal profiles and all of that changed with meeting somebody and having certain conversations, and it led me down this path. And I had to now invest in a career path in database administration, and got the right support and mentorship and immersed myself in the right community. And that changed everything, right? But there was an intentional design. When I said, look, okay, this is what I want. This leans more to what my areas of strengths are, right? This leans into my strengths. This leans into, I did not want to program and write code every day, right? I'd done that. I had taken classes in algorithms and done different things. I didn't want to, I didn't have the patience required to navigate those, complexities of code or writing 10,000 lines of code and all of that. I didn't want to do that. There were certain career paths I didn't want to explore. I knew deep down in my heart, and while I was open to getting into it, because at the time I would have taken anything. But the moment I leaned into, I figured and I looked at the things, my journey, the things I had done, even previous experiences, internships I had done back in Nigeria, and foundations that I had built, led me down this path. And so when I got into it, it was the right move. And in a few weeks, like the program I had signed up for was a 2 to 3 months program. I didn't have to finish it, right? I leaned into community and networks and just self study. But I was motivated because I was on the right path. And in a couple of months, I was in my first job, right? And if not, was a couple of months, in the first month, and I landed 2 jobs, right? And so it wasn't necessarily the program that changed it. It wasn't a program. It wasn't a credential, an extra credential that I received. It was a deliberate decision to stop waiting for the market. Okay, and so when I started, my wife and I started NSTAR, when it was because we had lived this life of lack of clarity. Like, why is there no infrastructure in place for people who are in our situation to figure out their path, right? Somebody who had the skills and experience, who had the work ethic. Why is there no path for them to make the career transition, and figure out what's the best route? Somebody who has a bunch of degrees, for me, it was 2, right? And that experience led to NSTAR. That's why we do what we do. That's why we are designing even this version 2.0 of what NSTAR is, and so it's it didn't start just by wanting to do a business. It started by, hey, this was my lived experience and I found a gap. There were always career boot camps, but there was nobody helping with figuring out what path is ideal for you, right? There were people who would train you on the popular trends, but how many were really equipping you for the world of work and showing you what that looked like? That was the gap, and that was where this desire came from. That I was born out of. That was where this started from. Okay, and after many years of teaching and helping people get into careers in tech, I feel like we've found a pattern that has worked, right? We found a pattern that works, and I want to talk you through a few of these things, like the things that I've learned, because honestly, again, marketers, promoters, they talk about, I'll show you my 3-step framework that will give you da 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 da. Almost nobody has a roadmap, right? That's the truth. In all the years of working with career changers, one single most consistent thing that I have seen is a lot of professionals begin the process, right, with with intention, with a desire, with a number in mind, with a goal in mind, but no architecture. They know they want to move. They have a general direction of where they are trying to go, but they don't have a documented, validated plan that maps their specific experience to a specific role with a specific timeline with specific milestones, right? We're talking about architecting your career so that outcomes are almost 100% predictable, right? And what you see is, people want to make a career change, so they start looking for doing research. A lot of the time, that research leads you to trends. What's paying the most? You cannot count the amount of people that have come to me and said, "Nam, I want to learn database administration. I want to learn this year." Some people don't know what it is. They just say, "I want to learn your database thing. I want to learn Scrum. I want to learn. Do you teach cyber? Do you teach this?" Okay, why, or what's exciting for you about that? I hear it pays well. That's it, right? And so you see people in that situation. They know, but then they begin their research. They know they want to make a change, and then once they land on something, broadly based off of maybe trends, and minimal knowledge of what that entails, they look for courses. Right? They go to Udemy and they find something random, and then they take a course. They take some exams or certifications after that you can get resources for. Let me not throw shade at certifications. Again, I think certifications have their place and it's important. But for somebody looking to make a career change, certification is the last on the list of things you're looking for. If you're looking to make a career transition, it is the least important thing because you'll need to equip yourself first. Certifications are more for validation. It's way for me to show credibility. Like, hey, I say I do this. This is proof that I can do it. I've done it, and it's another way for professionals to stay up to date with what, because you see most of the certifications, you have to renew them from time to time, and so it's a way to stay up to date with what the market is doing. But for career changing, it's not unnecessary. It's just not as important as people make it look. And so, but that's what people do. They find a path, they go find a course, and then they do an exam, and then they update their LinkedIn, and then they begin to apply for roles. Have you done that before? Does that sound like something somebody who has done that? And then if 6 months later, 1 year later, they're stuck. They're working really hard. They are putting in the time, but it's not working out. And none of this, none of the things they've done is part of a strategy. It's just, let's just do something, right? A lot of people have gone and then they find a random course, they just pay for something. And when it's done, they wonder, okay, what happened? I can't reach anybody. I don't have this people, there's no support. I don't know what next. They ask you to figure it out. That's because there's no playbook. You just went with the trend and you invested. And so a lot of the time people just get into wanting to make a change in their career with no architecture, no framework, no concept of, okay, this is how I need to, not factoring where they are coming from. There are certain backgrounds that don't lend themselves to certain career paths. That's just the truth. There are certain things that you have as your personality type that will hinder your success in certain fields. You have to think about those. You have to consider those things, right? Because even if you've backdoor your way into a career, a lot of people have had very short-lived, and I've seen this, short-lived careers because what the job demands of them is completely in opposition to the God-given abilities that they have. The second thing I learned, a lot of people underestimate what the transition actually requires. They literally, a lot of people like, well, I can't, especially when you know somebody who has made a transition, people come back, well, if they did it, I can. I want to do what that guy did. And maybe because you know the person, you really literally underestimate what it entails, what that career transition entails, right? The technical skills, domain knowledge, that's one piece. And a lot of people, they lean into that, right? They want to go take the courses, take the classes. And a lot of people think that's the whole thing. I have, again, in my years of doing training, I have seen people who are the most technically savvy people but struggle to get a job. Like, I know if you give them an opportunity, they will kill it. They know the technical stuff, but they cannot break through. It is not the whole thing. The technical know-how is not the whole thing, right? It's not. And a lot of people don't necessarily understand the whole picture. What the transition actually requires, and it's, I've seen people discover this the hard way, over and over again. It's a combination of things, and people are not taught these things, right? They are not taught about these things, as they are learning the course, and it's so crazy, right? So when we talk about making the career change, what does it really involve? Right? What does this involve? So I've worked with so many students, professionals, uh, um, so many come to my mind, and I'm looking for the best example to give to give you, right? But you see, let's talk about how a lot of people approach their resume. Most career changers, right? For them, they look at the resume as a document that is a record of uh, um, what they've done, and what they've accomplished, and all of that. Your resume needs to be a document of what you can do in the role you are targeting. It has to be framed, through the language of priorities within the domain that you're trying to get into. I've told my students, your resume is not a legal document; it's a marketing document, right? It's not a what do you call it? It's not a chronicle of your journey. It is a positioning. It's something that positions you for opportunity, right? It's something that gets your phone to ring. It's something that gets you in front of the people who are interested in your ability to do certain things that they need you to do. And so what your experience helps your resume do is validate that you've done certain things. Now, for somebody who is trying to make a transition, you might not have the job titles that lend themselves to experience. What do you do then? So that's where you have to realize this: the real function of the resume is beyond telling a story of all the things, all the titles you've held. It has to it has to tell the story of what you are able to do. It has to tell people who want to work with you, you are the right person, you are the preferred candidate. And the gap between the two versions of resume I just described is very significant. One will get screened out, by this APS tracking systems before any human being sees it, and the other gets through. All right. I've worked with people, that have 10 years of strong operational experience, a resume that I read like a job description. Everything they had done was on there. They use the language of what they had been doing, and then we work with them, help them reframe their experience in the lens of what they are trying to do, right? Whether it's database engineering, what have you done that lends itself to this? And then we use the right terms to highlight those things, right? What have you done in as a that lends itself to you being an agile professional, right? Have you managed projects? What are some things you've done? And then we use the language of project management, or of agility, of Scrum, to position those things for you properly, so that when people look at your resume, it tells them this person has actually done this, right? And that's what we've helped people do time and time again. Show them, take the things they've done and properly position it with the right language. And it's same experience, same organizations, but completely different outcomes, more compelling documents. Same person, same background, but different positioning on the same document, right? It's very important. Another thing that people, I want to highlight here in terms of how to make this transition: online position is a career asset most people are leaving on the table. Online positioning, how you are perceived, how you are seen online. Again, LinkedIn is not a digital resume. People use LinkedIn as a way to just chronicle the things they have done. It is beyond that. LinkedIn will do that for you, right? But it's a positioning tool. You know, yeah, most professionals treat LinkedIn like it's a digital resume, like it's the online version of their resume, right? Of the what they have on a document. It's not. It's beyond that. It positions you to be seen and perceived a certain way, right? You need to use LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a powerful instrument, right? But people don't maximize its ability. The professionals who transition the fastest are almost always the ones who have built a LinkedIn presence that reflects where they are going, not just where they have been. I'm telling you, I'll use my wife Stella. She's also faculty here with NSTAR, and her LinkedIn. She's leveraged LinkedIn and just her positioning with the articles she's posting, the things she talks about, the thoughts she's sharing. She's taking real life situations and then putting an agile twist to it. And you cannot imagine the amount of opportunities that have come her way, whether in terms of employment, speaking engagements, all of that, based off of just how she's positioned herself through LinkedIn, right? Because the content you are putting out, it's a way to signal expertise, domain knowledge, and when people see it, it's almost like a verification. Okay, I like the thought process this person has. I want to have a conversation, right? It's something that we have seen, and I give my students this project. Part of the thing they do is they have to post for a season, right? I give them frameworks to create posts on LinkedIn regularly. Outside of just updating what the LinkedIn profile says and the job history and all of that, it's also what to post, how to post, how to engage, where to communities to join, how to comment on posts, relative to your domain area. It's super important. So some people, when your role, when your current title is still reflecting your previous life, your previous career path, it's going to lead. Nobody's reaching out to you, even if you update job titles or whatever. It's not. So there has to be a level of intentionality with how you position yourself, and this is part of the things we've helped so many of our students do that has led to success. Like in a short period of time, we see significant change in responses, in outputs, in how things happen. So that's something that we help, we deal with. And then another thing that I want to highlight is your recruiter calls they're a skill most career changers are not prepared for. First of all, recruiters are very powerful entry. They are very powerful in your job search process. People underestimate the power those guys have. Before you get, they are the gates between you and the decision makers. Right? If a recruiter screens your resume and doesn't like how you sound, that's the end of that opportunity. That's it. They make that judgment call. It's like going to get a visa. The visa officer looks and doesn't like what you sound like, and like, yeah, sorry, we don't find you qualified. Heartbreaking. How should somebody be that powerful? How should one person wield all that power? It's the same thing that the recruiter has. It's they are able to support that. What they do is they are such a critical aspect of your journey when it comes to making a career transition. That first recruiter conversation you're having after you upload your resume and then somebody gives you a call, it's beyond a a screening call. That's how it's positioned. It's called to verify your credentials, your capacity, and all of those things. But it's beyond that. It's a positioning conversation, right? How you tell your story, how you describe your experience, how you explain your career transition, how you frame what you're looking for, right? It's very important. That conversation is either going to open the door wider or narrow it. Your recruiter should feel excited after the conversation. They should feel excited about speaking with you and almost be wanting to hunt you down, right? And a lot of people, a lot of career changers, they go into these recruiter calls unprepared or underprepared, because they feel like all they need to do is know their resume. That's not all it entails. You have to be able to tell your career story in a way that it makes your transition feel very logical, very compelling. It shouldn't leave them feeling like there's you shouldn't sound uncertain or it shouldn't feel like we are taking a risk on this person. The recruiter should not feel that way. They should feel excited about your journey based on how you tell the story. And this is something I've seen. Again, I've seen people go through, and I ask them, like, what did you say? What did they ask you? What did you respond? And I've heard all kinds of things. And you wonder, okay, why didn't they call you back? Well, that's why. Why didn't it happen? It didn't happen because of what you said, right? And so it's something where it's part of the things you require coaching for. It's like a recruiter asking you what are the things, why are you looking to make a change? Why are you looking for a new position at this time? That's a story you should be able to tell, and those are things that we talk about. For me, I always start with lead with confidence. You are the expert on this call. There's two people on this call. One person is the subject matter expert, and that person is you. Sound like it starts from there. Even in situations where you're not 100% sure of what they're asking for, right? People treat the recruiter call like it is the technical interview. You're not speaking to your peer. The recruiter is not your peer. They are not at the same. They are not at the same knowledge, wavelength when it comes to the particular field. They are not in the same knowledge wavelength as you. If you've done your homework well, then you are the expert. And so it's like somebody coming to ask you, somebody who doesn't do what you do, coming to ask you inquiries or make inquiries about something you do every day. You own that conversation because you approach that in real life like, I do this. That's what your recruiter call should sound like. It should leave the recruiter feeling like, yeah, they do this. This is what they do, right? They know how to navigate, and then their reason for trying to make a transition or make a change or being in the market makes sense. And so it's so important how you prepare for your recruiter call. The other stage in this transition process is your interview, right? And I'll say this: interview preparation for career changers is different from interview prep for direct applicants. Okay, so direct applicants, you're already doing this job, you're just trying to maybe make more money, go to a different. For career changers, it's different. A career changer walking into an interview is being evaluated differently from someone with a direct background in that role, right? The hiring manager has a specific doubt to address. Can this person actually do the job? If I give them this opportunity, do they know what they're doing? Especially if their title is not exactly, they're coming from, the title doesn't sound like what it should, there's that doubt. But the thing is, you're there. Okay, so again, interviews are different. So how you prepare is different for somebody who has been, this is their third job in this line. It's for them, it's just another next step in their transition. The other thing I want to highlight is your job in that interview is not just to answer questions well, is to proactively close that doubt. That means you should anticipate it, you should address it directly, and then with so doing, you're presenting specific evidence rather than general claims. So in that interview, you're showcasing, this is what I have done, this is what I am able to do, this is why I am the best candidate. That question should be answered. Even if it is not asked, you should leave no doubt why you are the person, you are the man, the woman for the job, right? It's so important. Part of the things we teach is how to use behavioral questions, to bridge the gap from existing experience to your target domain competency, right? Framing, projects from your previous roles in the language of your new domain. You have to be able to, again, a lot of time you're trying to convince somebody across. You leverage what you already know and what you already do, right? And then a big part of the things that I teach is asking the right questions. Your questions should people think the questions during when you go to an interview and then towards the end they ask you, do you have any questions for us? And a lot of the time people think, well, it's time for me to ask intelligent questions, and you should. But your intelligent questions should speak more to your experience than, if I don't get this job, I don't necessarily care that much about your company. And so your question is part of the interview. It should leave. Has somebody asked you a question and you're like, that's a good question, and it makes you feel like they are more knowledgeable than you know. It just gives them a level of an aura of, okay, this person really knows something. For you to ask that question, you know something about this thing more. That's exactly your goal. Does that make sense? When it's time to ask questions, when they say any question, your question should leave them feeling like you are. That's I didn't think about that. That's a good question. It should make them. Your question should be almost like you are telling them, I'm still like I'm. It's showcasing your knowledge. It's showcasing your expertise. Beyond just trying to answer. So how you answer questions, how you navigate the. Do you have any questions? Uh, um, it's very important, and these are things again we when we train, we walk people through how to, like, we have a checklist of the different questioning frameworks, right? The things you should talk about, how you want your questions to leave a perception about you. um One of the things I'll share, right, I can share is questions that leave them knowing that, hey, you are beyond the technical professional if you're going for a technical role. So you've spent the whole time there answering technical questions. And what's one of the misconceptions about tech people, tech bros, is, hey, they are not social. They don't care about the business per se. They just want to do their thing, and that's it. And now I'm talking about, I'm in a question. I'm talking about the news I read. I heard there was a merger, and you guys have been merged with this company, and da 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 da. And now I'm wondering how that works with transitioning. Are what's that transition looking like, and how does that impact the team and all of that? So now I've taken the interview beyond the scope of technology and more on an organizational level. I am presenting myself to be a leader, to be somebody who is interested in the good of the company, not just in a paycheck, right? And so, does that always make you get the job? Maybe not, but it makes them feel, it makes them think of you that that's another line of questions. So asking the right questions, right, it is so important. People get to that end of the interview and they are very happy. They're excited. So that's that. Now the other thing that I want you to keep in mind is, we at the offer stage. A lot of people just want to, maybe the first job you're excited about taking that, but there's something called negotiation, right? And that's, again, it's one of the most expensive mistakes I've seen people make, because one of the reasons why you have to negotiate your pay before you say yes to a job is it is easier to get more money before you start the job than after you get the job. Most companies will stick with, except you get a major promotion that comes with a bump, you're not going to see a significant pay jump, right? And so if you don't do well for yourself, if you don't negotiate or advocate for yourself well to get a good package getting in, you're going to be getting small, mundane annual increases every year. And you can't, it's always, again, it's, do people get significant pay bumps? Yes, it happens. But it's not the norm. Okay, so learning to negotiate, how to negotiate, is one of the conversations that I always like to have with people. I remember I had a job opportunity, and I've been privileged to just do a lot of these conversations for myself. And I got a job offer one time. It was for a certain amount of money. I'd done the interview and went well. They called me and all of that. And I was driving home. I went to pick up my kids from daycare at the time. And while I was there, they called me to make me an offer me the job. And the HR person lady was talking through, like, hey, da da da, give me the benefits. And by the time they finished and then they got to that, the salary is going to be this amount. Immediately, my excitement died. And I told them, let me, yeah, think on that a little bit. And like, I called back and I said, no, that's not going to work. This is the meaning, this is the number, this is where I am, and this is uh, um, what I believe for this position. Like you have to be able to, and believe it or not, I got like another $25,000 on top of what the initial offer was. Now, was the first offer terrible? No, but it was not. If I'm going to leave what I'm doing to come work for you, it has to make sense, right? And so, again, coming from a place of my technical proficiency, you know what I'm good at. You've spoken to me and you felt confident. You made me this offer. Now my job is to make sure that I get the offer I deserve. I get what I'm supposed to get, and so I've seen jumps like that multiple occasions. I've had another one. I ended up still rejecting the job after because I had a second offer. And not at this particular one, I took this job, the first job I talked about. I had another situation where I got a job offer, and then there was a second company I had interviewed for, and they wanted to offer me a job. And in fact, they were going to train me. Um, and I said, let me see how much of this framework works. Let me push this to the limits. And I started working my angles and talking to different things, and they kept on adding money. I was like, what is going on here? Like they kept on adding. At some point, when they reached the highest they could go, they started adding vacation days, right, to make it sweeter for me. Training opportunities, all of that. And where I'm going is, there is a strategy to negotiating more for yourself. But again, it's not going to getting more money is not going to happen automatically. And so I've seen that happen time and time again. And these are parts of the things that are coming. Again, remember this whole conversation about having a plan. You have a number in mind, you have a title in mind. Now, what's your plan to get to that number and get that position? Right. And so I've talked through several things: the roadmap, reframing your resume, online positioning, recruiter calls, preparing for that, interview coaching, offer negotiation. None of it is what most people think transition career involves when they start the process, right? A lot of people don't consider all of these things. Most people just think it's about getting a new credential and apply for jobs. Credentials matter, that is the truth. The skills matter, that is also true. But they are just pieces of an architecture, right? They are just pieces, and people are trying to build without a blueprint. You're just taking things and throwing together and hoping a house happens, right? You just get, okay, there's a roof. Let me get a roof. Okay, man, I need some blocks. Let me start building. No, it's the roof, all of that has to be based off of, okay, this is what I'm trying to get to. A lot of people just start taking things. I'm trying to put something together and hope a house comes out of it. A house might come out of it, but it might not be what you want. And so the architecture, the design, the blueprints to get into where it matters. And this is what NSTAR is built to provide, not just a course, not a certification, a structured, supported transition process that addresses the full picture, right? You've seen what happens when people have only a part of it. Maybe you've experienced it yourself. I have had people count, like if I had $1 for every time someone came and told me, Namda, I took this class with this person, I took this course, and then nothing happened, and now I'm stranded. I want to, like, if I was getting paid for all the time I had that, I'll be richer than I am right now. And so it's not just having a part. You need the whole blueprint so that you can invest in the right parts. You can know the right thing to do, and that is career architecture, right? That is what it's about. All right, so we started NSTAR for this reason, right? I was you. I was that confused professional who could do a lot of things and didn't know what served me best. And I know what it feels like to have skills, have the capability more than your role reflects. And I also know what it means to close that gap. And I've done that as in career. I've done that for building a business and continue to do that in different aspects of life. And so I know what I wish I had, and when I was going through this process, that structured process, that guidance, yeah, I know what it takes, and I know what it would have done for me, and what having the community would have done for me. People going through the same thing, and so that's why this is important, and that's why I don't know when you're watching this, but tomorrow, May 23rd, the first step in the process is our corporate advancement hour. That's the first place to start. All right, corporate advancement hour. That's where we begin the conversation. We are running a live positioning session, 90 minutes, free, virtual. The link is in the description. Go and register. If you have not registered already, go and register. We will go through again how to. We're going to run a live positioning so you are better equipped to understand exactly what it is your career entails. And then June 20th, we are doing our career architecture intensive. It's going to be our launch for. We are literally creating a program to help you architect your career, so you know you don't go invest money without knowing if this is going to work, right? It's this is not the it's not a it's not to lead you to go become a DBA or something that no. It's about making sure that you that's looking to make a career change, you have a blueprint, you have a framework that you are following. Our deliverable for you that June 20th is that you will have a documented plan, a validated income trajectory, a 12-month roadmap, right? That event is going to be happening here in Atlanta in person, or you can join online as well. So early access is open. The link will also be in the description. So again, if you come for the corporate advantage hour tomorrow, we'll still talk about this a little more. But that's step one. Make sure you are there. It's virtual. And then June 20th, we are going all in live, and we're going to be uh, um, getting in and making sure that you have the framework required to go have a successful career. Excellent. Well, thank you very much for listening. I want to see everybody tomorrow. Make sure you go ahead and sign up, tell somebody about it, and then get excited for our career architecture intensive. It's going to be the best. It's a day-long event. It's not an hour. It's not the corporate advancement hour is 90 minutes. The career architecture intensive is a day. We're spending a whole day with you, right? 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. We'll have food, we'll have lunch. It's going to be a full day of action. We're bringing everything that we've learned after helping over close to 400 people make career changes and get into successful careers. We're putting all of that into helping you design a blueprint. You will take that. If you want to stay with us, fine. If you want to go somewhere else, great. But the whole idea is you have a document that is your career blueprint that you can take with you, and then a 12 months blueprint to help you get to the career of your dreams. I hope that sounds exciting enough for you. Again, thank you so much for your time. I don't take it for granted. Everybody who sits down to listen to us, it's a gift, it's a privilege. And so thank you for your gift of your time. Please go ahead and subscribe. If you have not already, share this video with somebody who needs to watch and who has questions around these things. Again, I'll be in the comment section. If you have any additional questions around this, I'd love to answer your questions in the comments. Drop a comment, let's address it. And I want to see you in one of our live events soon. So till next time, stay blessed. I'll talk to you very soon.